Hello, everyone. My name is Colin Goldberg, and I'm a Texpressionist. Today is Thursday, November 6th, 2025, and we're here for our 100th salon. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with what a Texpressionist salon is, the very first salon was held on September 1st, 2020, and that was our first virtual meetup, artist meetup, conducted via Zoom. In attendance were artists Oz Van Rosen, Steve Miller, Patrick Lichty, and myself, as well as the art historian and longtime director of the Pollock Krasner House and Study Center, Helen Harrison. So this was the first meetup of the artist group, and it was conceived of as a modern counterpart to the surrealist salons of the 1920s, in which artists could meet informally to socialize and discuss ideas. The most recent roundtable recording is a discussion between the members of this first salon, and that's available at texpressionism.com/roundtable. Um, a little over 5 years later, Texpressionism has grown into a global community with over 350 artists from more than 45 countries. There are currently over 80,000 posts on Instagram using the hashtag Texpressionism. Hello Uzbekistan marks the first international museum exhibition for the group and is a fitting topic for today's salon. Hello Uzbekistan was and continues to be a true group effort. It's impossible to take apart who did what. Everyone in the exhibition worked to make this happen, from creating a catalog to even the presentations that we were about to see. Cynthia Beth Rubin served as the organizer of this cooperative effort. She's a Texpressionist artist whose work has been included in our major exhibitions, Texpressionism Digital and Beyond at the Southampton Arts Center in 2022, Hello Brooklyn at the Kingsborough Art Museum in 2024, and Hello Chelsea in 2025 at the Hudson Gill Gallery in New York City. With Cynthia DiDonato, she organized the weekly Texpressionist co-working sessions, which have been ongoing for nearly 2 years. Previously, Rubin held leadership roles in other organizations, including serving as a board member of ISEA, as digital arts chair of the ACM SIGGRAPH Digital Arts Community, and as chair of the SIGGRAPH Arts Awards Committee, among other roles. Through all of this, she continues to make Texpressionist art, as we will soon see. Texpressionist salons now incorporate Zoom translated captions, which enable users to have the speech in a meeting or webinar automatically translated in real time to captions in another language. For example, if the speaker is speaking English in a meeting, captions can be made available in Spanish, Chinese, Ukrainian, and more. Many thanks to Cynthia Beth Rubin for taking the lead on this initiative. Instructions on how to enable captions are available at texpressionism.com/captions. So before we get going, I just ask that if you're not presenting, please mute yourselves, which it looks like everyone has already. And now I will pass the mic on to Cynthia Beth Rubin, who will serve as our moderator today. So Cynthia, take it away.
Okay, great. Well, I think we're ready to roll. This is in the true spirit of this exhibit. This is a cooperative effort, and Greg Garvey is controlling the actual slideshow. So we will get going. And Greg, you can just go right ahead because we're into our trailer. Great. So a lot of people have asked how this show came about. So it came about in 2002. I was in a show with that was organized by Andrei Martynov, and this is Andrei who initiated our show in Uzbekistan and left us before the show came to fruition. But I got to really know him through the years. He put my work in other exhibitions you can see over in the Kyrgyzstan State Museum. So this is exhibition is dedicated to him. Where were we? Well, this map gives you an idea of where Uzbekistan is, and then you can see where Urgench is, which I've circled here within Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is really a desert country, so there's a little background of where we were, and you will notice that there are these green spots. Those are the oases that became the city. When we were in Urgench, we were surrounded by these incredible textures and everywhere. This is the hotel we stayed in, so every day we saw these textures, the sidewalks. Not every sidewalk has textures on it, but a lot of them did. And this is electronic art right across the street from our hotel. We saw this hospital. I don't know what it's like to stay in a hospital with the lights flashing all the time, but there we were. Um, okay, you can go on to the next one. We seem stuck on that. So on a very hot day, we went trudging over with our artwork that we had all hand carried, and we knew we got to the right place when we saw our poster in front of this wonderful museum. So we approached the museum, and this is the courtyard of the museum. Wonderfully carved pillars. It was the former post office, and you can see the landscape. It's a desert vegetation, but just incredible. So I wanted, Shirin is here with us. We went in and we met Shirin, the director. This is what she said about the exhibit that's in the catalog. And then we went in and we met with these fabulous staff members who stayed with us the whole time. They were really great helping us. I wanted to include this picture to give you an idea of what's the museum is kind of symmetrical. And on the other side is this collection of paintings, just stacked salon style. And the museum does amazing outreach. All kinds of people come. These are artists who have work in the permanent collection who came to our opening. A couple of them have self-portraits, so you can see that, which was really great too, to meet them, and they were very enthusiastic about our exhibit. The night of our first day there, we went out for dinner, and this gives you another idea of the ambience and the experience of being in Uzbekistan. And just before that, this is what we were doing. Greg, I'm not hearing sound with this. Oh, here we go. Okay, just to show you, there was a lot of fun going on. We've moved on now. So Shirin took us to Khiva, wonderful tour guide. Khiva's a historic city that's right near Urgench, and here's a sense of the textures that we're seeing. This is not as old as some of the other buildings, but it's a historic building with the kinds of textures that we saw. And one of the great things about being in Khiva is that there's permanently installed sculptures that remind you of the history, that you're on the Silk Road. So we went from the very modern buildings in Urgench with this incredible sensibility to feeling that we were in history. But here we are installing. We came back to reality. We were there for the exhibit. Everybody had to work. The staff was fabulous staying with us. And then we were installed. The show was up, and this just gives you a little bit of a hint of the space. You're going to see more. And then we went into Shirin's office and had tea, which is something that we did frequently. So not only was she gracious giving us tea, but if you look at the art on the walls, you'll see selections from previous exhibits. So a large number of people came to the opening. It was a great crowd that gathered around as we prepared to give our speeches, and hopefully the sound is on for the speeches.
Cynthia and you group, specialism group, welcome to
Okay, and now I'm going to show you a little bit excerpts from a wonderful television report. It's Noon Uzbek, and the translation I don't think will work for
O'zbekiston
this.
zamonaviy san'at muzeyi
Gives you an idea of the opening.
sifatida tanilgan. Muzey ekspozitsiyalaridan o'zbek tasviriy san'atining turli davrlarini qamrab olgan Polsha va Shveysariya kabi davlatlar bilan hamkorlikda xalqaro ko'rgazmalarni tashkil etib, o'z faoliyatini Raqamli texnologiyalar hayotimizga shiddat bilan kirib kelar ekan, ular rassomchilik san'atini ham cheklab o'tgani yo'q. Amerikalik 11 nafar zamonaviy san'at ustalari ana shu jarayonlardan ilhomlanib, o'zining betakror asarlarini yaratishgan. Bugun ularning 70 dan ortiq san'at asarlari tomoshabinlar e'tiboriga havola etilmoqda.
Temple, and I took photographs and color and pure abstraction.
Ko'rgazmaga tashrif buyurganning ayniqsa yosh ijodkorlar uchun katta ilhom manbai, san'atsevarlar uchun esa zamonaviy badiiy tafakkurni his qilish maydoniga aylandi.
Avval matn yozaman, so'ng ilova uni rang-barang, yorqin va
u xalqaro rassomlarning ishlarini yurtimizga olib kelib, O'zbekistonning o'zida ham san'at
Okay, and the museum continues to attract visitors to our exhibition. This is a couple weeks after group of med students, and this is had to include this because this is typical of how we hanging out in this restaurant. And James Dawson, who's here, Roz's husband, gave a little speech about how great the restaurant was. So they gave him something special. We got great press coverage thanks to Shirin's hard work, and there are links to this, and we have to thank all of our supportive friends, partners who came thinking they might have a vacation but had to go to work, and the people who really helped us understand Uzbek culture and helped with our translations. We absolutely could have not done this without their help. So that's our introduction, and we are going to go on now to the artists who are actually organized alphabetically by first name. So here we go.
Okay. So I was really pleased to be part of the Texpressionist show. Using the floor plan that was provided for us, I calculated the amount of running space per person and came up with an estimate of 10 to 13 feet. So on that basis, I did a mock-up of my installation plan, which you see here, and I decided to use the space to show the 10-foot panorama from my Myrtle Walk series and a set of 4 16 by 20 virtual still life images from the Junk Drawer Rhapsody series. The panorama was printed on vinyl in California and fitted with grommets for ease of hanging. The prints were done in my studio on my Epson printer. I was really concerned about color fidelity, but the vinyl printing matched my studio prints. The two series are related, but they have slightly different color. But despite the differences in support media and print type, I felt they worked together. So this is an installation shot. On right, you see Zulfia, who's one of Shirin's assistants, and all the images were laid out on the floor to set up the room. At first, I thought we might have some problems hand carrying the work into the country, but that really never happened. My vinyl print rolled up into a tube, and the Epson prints were in glassine bags, also in the tube. And they ended up installing fairly easily. So this is a series of 4 prints from the Junk Drawer Rhapsodies. They're virtual still life images composed of low polygon 3D models that have been altered by me and then composed in 3D space. You can't really see it from the front view, but the positioning of these objects is an illusion, and there are visual tricks in the way perspective and scale have been used. I'm really interested in the formal relationship of the objects as well as their metaphorical impact, and use point of view and virtual camera lenses to accentuate these properties. I also use lighting, including tinted light and reflection, to complicate the space. So I'm really intrigued by the commonplace objects that surround us and try to bring out their innate poetry and inherent strangeness. The virtual still lives are also a commentary on how we create unique environments out of so many small and innocuous things. And in this, I've been influenced by the French poet Francis Ponche, whose work minutely examined everyday objects. This piece is actually a duplex panorama, 2 panoramas of different scales. This series came out of daily walks that I took in my studio neighborhood, in which I photographed discarded objects, architectural elements, and building material textures. The first series of panoramas were produced as prints and scrolling JavaScript animations with ambient sound. For the Department of Cultural Affairs in New York City Canvas program, I created a second set of panoramas that were 50, 100, and 150 feet lengths. One issue was print panoramas, that they were long but not wide. So in fact, the original series was 7 by 92 image. So for this series, I decided to duplex the panoramas by stacking them so that you see a complete view of the one on top and a close-up view or partial view of a second one. These images use a similar process to the virtual still life images, but in this case, the 3D models are composited against the background of collage 2D photographic fragments, and the lighting and reflection are mostly minimized. We can go to the next slide. Next slide, Beck. And finally, this is an installation shot of the work with the young visitor for scale. It was great to work with Shirin's staff, meet some of the local artists, and talk with the university students. And I have to say that our group of Texpressionists worked really hard to make this come off.
Okay. Okay, so you get me again because we're going alphabetical. This is my work when it was first unrolled, and you can get an overview here. I'm working with plankton. I have been for a number of years. I'm drawn to plankton, first of all, because of the idea of making, oh, I had to stick this in, so it's just a little aside. This artist did a drawing of me solely, and it was really fun to hang out. So overview of my work installed. I'm interested in making things that are unseen visible. So that's one of the reasons for being interested in plankton. Also the fact that plankton provide more than 50% of the oxygen that we breathe. They're bottom of the food chain, super important. So this is adjacent to the installation you just saw. This one larger piece that was somewhat featured in the exhibition, and this is all very recent work. This is what the plankton looked like under the microscope. I use powerful microscope at Rhode Island School of Design, and I hang out and get advice with and help and interact with the Mendon Dura Lab at the School of Oceanography at the Rhode Island School of Design. This detail shows you that it's very layered. So under the microscope, it's completely colorless. Here, there's a detail where I'm playing with it. I'm just playing with pure color, texture, pulling them out, a little bit of gold lace in there. So back to the overall exhibition, I'm going to talk a little bit about the piece that's in yellow in a little bit more detail. But first, I wanted to mention these that may seem a little bit, they're very different. These were done as a collaboration with a graduate student who was sampling the water. And so it brings us much more in touch with the marine environment. I took her data, which together we decided to create the shaped graphs, and I treated them as visual objects, working with Andrea Miller, whose data it was. When we did this series, it was part of a synergy project in Rhode Island. So it really was a true meeting of art and science, and and also Cezanne Mendendur advised on this. So back to the larger pieces with the plankton. I investigate the plankton in many ways. There's a photographic element relating to my previous work. I did this piece to include some of the actual elements. I recycled them into this piece, and this piece is also in the show. In the earlier work, the plankton I used was less distinctive, but the salt, those cubes are cubes of salt. Under a big push from the virtual co-working group, I started to include actual images of what's under the microscope, and then playfully, something new for me, put in actual lace. So these are details I'm showing. And my understanding of the plankton, I do some quick gesture drawing. So in this piece, I also included a gesture drawing, and then after it's printed out, I actually draw on it. So here you can see what's in the lower right, that I took the piece and emphasized the forms of the salt. And this piece has all of those elements in it in different layers, printed out, in and out many times. I had an uncolored version of it. I colored it. I rephotographed it. Having an iPhone and being able to just photograph is the most amazing thing. And this piece, which I did just before the show, also it shows that these plankton make chains. They're dead when I photograph them. And so you kind of see the dead chain and then the plankton, and then again, this idea of immersing it in an environment. So thanks to all the people who made this series of work possible. In some ways it's collaborative. So that's what I have. So thank you. Thanks for listening and looking.
Okay, I'm ready to go. Hello, everyone. I'm talking to you from Oberlin, Ohio. I included this slide because Shirin sent me these to confirm that my work had arrived after sitting in customs in Tashkent for approximately 2 weeks. This is the installation view of the work in the gallery. And I made some decisions about how to ship the work and hang the work in the most expedient way. Here is an installation view of the gallery again, which we've seen several of, but you can see that there were several visitors. I'm going to talk briefly about 3 different bodies of work that are included in the show, and there's a lot of information here, so I'm going to speak pretty quickly. The bodies of work are Memories of Place is the oldest body of work, and this is a body of work based on memories of travel to India. Jaipur on the left and Varanasi on the right. And I worked with pure pigments, layers and layers of pure pigments, and then laser etching digital artifacts and images and assets into the layers of pure pigment, revealing other colors underneath. Something about the pigments reminded me of my time in India, and so I worked from that. This last piece I'll show you from that group is based on Delhi, and this is the entrance dome to the Red Fort in Delhi. The geometry fascinated me completely, and a morning shot of the birds at the Yuma Ghat. A ghat is where the bodies are burned, in case you weren't aware, burned with sandalwood. So here's Delhi, and you can see the combination of the dome and the birds. And this is a close-up view showing you the layers of etching and hand-ground pigments. These are small images, approximately 9 by 12. That particular image, I scanned the original work and printed it at a large scale and did not like it. Therefore, I worked on it more and created that particular image. A second body of work is called Others in Their World. And this is based on Afrofuturism, my reading and study of the musician and Sun Ra, philosopher Sun Ra, and also Moore Mother, who is a poet, musician, activist. If you're not aware of her work with Black quantum futurism, you should check her out. Also, influences from my past as a painter include Mata, Paul Klee, Lenora Carrington, and people who are basically painting other worlds as places of liberation. So this is one of the images from that. You can see that I'm pulling digital assets of my own from the past and placing them into this pixelated world. This one was based on a very small sketch I did during a faculty meeting, and then blew it up, printed it, and began painting and adding digital assets. And this is a third one. And again, the works that were in the exhibition in Urgench were digital prints from scans of these artworks. So here we have the artworks again, are pigment, aqueous media, transfer, collage on paper. The third body of work called Making Visible the Visible. And this is basically going back to the Paul Klee statement from the past about art makes the invisible visible. I went to Richard Feynman's diagrams of particles and waves as related to quantum theory. I just love these little things, and he made infinite numbers of these diagrams. And so I included those into these works. My thinking was, what's invisible to us today? What can I make visible? And trying to get down to the kind of lowest level elements that I could. This is the last one I worked on. These are all called Feynman's Dream. And this one is digital transfers and encaustic on panel. So I was very happy to be included in this exhibition, and felt very fortunate, and really appreciate all of the support. Thank you.
Okay, I'm next, so here goes. So our artistic adventure took place in Uzbekistan, but it actually began earlier in 2023 when I visited Japan. And while attending a conference, I visited the Kayase-san Dai Jingu Shrine in Koriyama, Fukushima Prefecture. And I took photos like this of angular branching of pine trees on the grounds of the Shinto shrine. I uploaded these into Midjourney. I wrote prompts to distort the source images increasingly towards abstraction, then repeatedly and recursively took the output images and fed them back in multiple times. And using the image weight parameter, I was able to control the influence of previous generations on the current generation. There I could tease out the desired effects. Through multiple generations and iterations, the abstractions were an emergent phenomenon, which I curated to form the Kayase-san Dai Jingu series, which was exhibited in Urgench. Selective use of key terms like cable TV, glitch, pixelated breakup, along with specific color references to saturated, inverted, complementary, split complements gave me indirect control of the image generation, yet each image was infused with serendipity. Midjourney became a partner that augmented and amplified my artistic experiments and process and did not replace it. So I do not view AI as a threat, but rather an enhancement, allowing me to quickly explore entirely new direction, image making that would be difficult to achieve with traditional media or even with programming code. The Kayase-san Dai Jingu series is continuation of a longtime interest in glitch distortion, a term I did not use in 1988, but now aiming at expressive abstraction. And the students, which you saw in many of the photographs, were present. And Kodorov Saleh, a Uzbek artist, is standing in front of his painting in the permanent collection. And this slide shows how the series was hung. It is designed to lead the eye in unexpected ways through gaps in predictable grid arrangement. A much simpler prompt, slowly evolving glitch distortion 3D rotations, was repeatedly used recursively to generate the video which I'm about to show you. And it should start now. Thank you. And great group to work with.
Hello. Lee Day here. My project is clipping suburbia Japan. And one of the things that I'm really interested in is how algorithms see the world and how we're affected by the algorithmic soup that we swim these days. So I have a bit written here. Moments jam up against each other. Staring from a train hurtling through the city, the world flashes by. A mangled jumble of screen impressions, seen and not seen, racing forward in a distraction of thoughts, thrown out by cloud-computed algorithms. We're making a new digital world for ourselves. Gone is our leisurely pace of thought and lifestyle, and driven by frictionless connectivity, this digital life is a headlong rush. These photos are an expression of the speed, the cascade of experiences that are the defining aspect of this brave new world. And while my work is on the one hand an exploration of how this digital world feels to me, I'm also interested in the question of how the algorithmic devices we populate our lives with experience this very same environment. In other words, how would an AI see the world? The Clipping Suburbia series is generative at its core. The content of the images are compiled entirely by the algorithmic processes of my iPhone's AI as it struggles to cope with the novel experience of recording a panorama from a train window speeding through the landscape at 40 to 50 miles per hour. But in this struggle, it creates these wonderful images of time and space compressed, of fragments flowing together to form digitized impressions of the world racing by. But in the end, these results still pose a question. And that is, will AIs see in the same beautifully formed 3D Technicolor renderings as we do? Or could their world maybe actually be more like this, a constellation of fragmentary images? Or even, perhaps they see something unseeable to us, something entirely of their own imagining. The two worlds, digital space and our experiences of tangible world, are not separate. As we continue incorporating artificial intelligence into our daily lives, we merge. We increasingly experience our world through their eyes, through their senses. And that, I feel, is one of the most important points of this work. For me, especially these smaller images, really feel like the world these days. It feels like everything is rushing too fast. Before you get one thought, another thought comes intruding upon it. You can never really finish putting together ideas before there's something else happening and you have to jump away to something else. So on expressionist, this is expressionism after all, on an expressionist point of view, that's a lot of what I feel is expressed in this, the speed and the fragmentary nature of the world we live in today. One of the great things about going to Urgench was that we had a big wall to work with. And for the first time, I was able to actually install this work in a bit different way. Usually you end up installing things sort of in a straight line going across, everything all laid out beautifully. Here, I tried to make the installation work a bit more like the image themselves. So it's dashes and patterns and flowing across as if the wall itself and the windows in the installation are interrupting the space, and it's like a ticker tape going through space. So it was really great being in Urgench. We had a wonderful group, and I hope we can do some more of this. It was just great.
Hi, I'm Michael Woodruff, and as it says, I'm in London. So this is my first exhibition printing the work as well, as a digital artist, and I decided on a selection of images based around my digital graffiti, collage, and abstraction works. So being mostly video and animation, I thought it was a really positive experience in working up the static images to be printed, and also the physical implications that got associated with that. And the one thing I drew was the importance of how much digital work really needs the physical as well. We're so used to the screen and the ease of use of digital platforms. And it's not just that, but in the artistic thinking, and it's really helped me with the work I'm doing. So you can see some of my images, and thanks for the help, guys, in installing. So you can sort of see some of the video work installed, the projector, which was a bit of a challenge. And it's one of the many issues we have with digital artifacts in galleries. So you can see me talking to some of the people on the right there, and there's a bunch of people getting in the way of my work there. And as part of the group as well, I was putting together a lot of the video formats. Like we had an open submission, which you can see on the right there. So I think we had 27, 28 artists. And also as well, because of my work that I do in my professional studio, I produced the trailer as well and tried to bring a bit of a branding consistency across the exhibition, which I think is missing in a lot. And, a lot of people submit a lot of digital work, and it's kind of hard to sort of see where it's all fitting in. And one of the other challenges of digital work in traditional kind of exhibitions. But here's my work kind of thing. So in the age of digital perfection, it's being endlessly reproducible, even generated. I'm interested in excavating what we've buried in that rush forward, the glitches, the grain, the glows, the ghosts in the machine. So I'm searching for a kind of sublime language I can work and reflect, in the cultural sedation which we have. So this is battle group number 1, the things we lost just to get here. Oh, so in my meditation on digital loss, masquerading as visual abundance, so I'm drawing on my background on entertainment, film, and advertising. So I'm applying the emotional logic of abstract expressionism and the democratic energy of pop art, neo-expressionism, graphic design, and graffiti to create what I think has as meta-nostalgic abstraction. This is work that doesn't repackage historical art practices, but interrogates how looking back has become a primary way of actually moving forward. Each piece functions as a visual system. It's sequence reactive and fragmented. I think of them as mixtapes, like collages, where movement, color, and forms collapse into one another. In a moment where new technology markets itself through seamlessness, I'm choosing friction, analog imperfections that aren't merely replicated, but they're rebuilt within these digital systems, in these structures. They're becoming formal elements, as considered as brush marks or paint blocking. The results is imagery that I hope carries a genuine emotional weight and surfaces that feel haunted by the media technologies that shape us. You know, this work is about what we embed in our tools and what the tools also embed in us. You know, it's about the stories we're telling through the things we save and the things we let go and decay. You know, it's also about how memory itself has become a technological problem and how that problem might be art's kind of urgent subject to explore in a world of repackaging ideas. So we had the last picture just before was called My Nerves Are Raw on Being Accessible as I Dig a Hole for My Information. And one of the people there, 14-year-old girl, came up to me and said that was her favorite piece in the whole exhibition, which was really great to see people engage with. So sorry about that, guys. This one is called If You Close My Eyes Forever, Will All Remain Unchanged. And if there's any Ozzy Osbourne fans in here, that was a homage to him who passed away as I was making that. And this is the last one here. So it's 200 views of Rothko's digital graffiti, which was one of my first pieces. And it's just frames from that animation, they're displayed together. So I'm evoking the color field theory that he sought. And it's a great way of showing most of my video long form format in a singular static image and hoping you can get that meditation from. And I'd just like to thank Cynthia for inviting me, because I work with her weekly in the various things and is the UK representative, and how great it was to hang out with everyone and, you know, and share the stories and the adventure, because Uzbekistan was an adventure.
Good afternoon. This is Patrick, and we're talking about the piece we did called The House on the Water. It expands on our Google Earth work about being apart to being together in an uncertain state. So the next piece is the body of work has to do with pieces that were generated a lot of the time, and some of them seen here as arriving in Uzbekistan, from pieces relating to our lives together and apart. At this time, a lot of them created while we were spending time in Germany. Here's Lee Day and Ursula and Licker, you know, basically doing us a fantastic solid putting the work up in Uzbekistan. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make it. So once again, it's sort of a good metaphor about our, you know, being there or being not or not. So the work in itself, The House on the Water, expands on this Googled Earth work that we did that had to do with our having to be together in third spaces. Now that we're together, we have these bodies of work that were generated partially in our time in Germany now are being fulfilled in Winona, having to do with a lot of them having to do with ideas of water. There's a metaphor in Persian culture talking about being in an uncertain state as we go forward through immigration and naturalization, that, you know, there's living on a house on the water, almost like being on a shifting sand. So we have three different kind of movements within this particular piece. And we'll get into that in a moment. One is a metaphor of the water goddess Anahita, which Negin first worked on, and a lot of this built from. What's interesting about this is that the central piece, can you give me the next slide, is actually an illustration of Negin's that was brought into Meshi AI and was turned into this amazing 3D figure that was then brought into New Art City. And then we created these images also from other pieces that were created from other metaphors that we had. So this particular set of works had to do with my having seen Caspar Friedrich's romantic work in Weimar, and basically what Goethe wanted him to do was basically create a sky atlas, but he didn't. So the thing is that I wanted to look at my ideas of neo-romanticism and textpressionism in regards to climate change, AI, and this idea of the sublime. So there was a quick transition there with one of the AI generations of this house that we have on the water that basically wound up going from the first movement into the second movement into this third set of images, which combined, this idea of the sky atlas along with the goddess, and then the that looks over the house floating over the water. So the thing is that this is almost like a second version because the first version didn't come in. And we're very grateful for the TV media that was shown with the local coverage and also Lee Day. We're very grateful also to Shirin and everybody for helping put the work together because it had to be reprinted in Uzbekistan. And also just, so many thanks to everybody who helped us put the work, together and get it there and get it up on the wall. And, thanks for Cynthia for having us and in this particular piece. And that's our story and we're staying with it. So thank you.
Hello, it's Roz from Shelter Island. How did I get to this place? Uzbekistan. Yes, that's how it's pronounced. Uzbekistan. It's all because of this woman, Cynthia Rubin, who invited me to be part of this. Here we are walking from our hotel to the museum. And it's a wonderful sharing group that we were a part of, this whole experience. I mean, just such an adventure. Here you've seen a lot of installation shots, but here's another one. We all helped one another, and the assistants and Shirin at the museum were, of course, wonderful to work with. They helped us with everything. I actually shipped my pieces early, and I was just so thankful that they did arrive. Here I am with my pieces installed. Someone asked earlier about media in terms of the vinyl banners. These are my latest works that are about football, and it was a wonderful way to use this medium with grommets, kind of giving it a pop art kind of feeling. All of my work seems to be about layering, of course, with digital and early on pixels that entered my paintings, but they are all also about American topics, like from football to guns to Jesus to, Coca-Cola and Lincoln. Here are some of our guests who came with Faruza. I know Faruza's last name, but can't remember it. She's a professor, and these are her university students, and they were so polite and so interested in sharing with all of us their Instagram, post and becoming friends and just crossing borders. It made me think so much and feel so good about sisterhood, brotherhood, international relations, humanity itself, which has been somewhat lacking, I feel, here in the United States. My pieces, to get into it a bit, these are pieces I've thought about a long time, but as my husband sometimes occasionally watches football, I take these low-grain pictures of these guys who just seem to be, speaking of brotherhood, that they're like in an embrace here, but I was fascinated with the colors, the crowds, the whole thing, that it is a game. It is not war. And I've been thinking a lot about the forces in the world right now where male testosterone is seems out of bounds in a way that isn't healthy. And I thought about the Olympic Games and how here they're going after each other with all that they have, but the rules of the game keep them from killing each other, and it's usually and it's not war. It's a first mark of civilization, those Olympic Games. And I watched football, and I've just been doing these multi-layered pieces. So many of my compatriots here, wow, what a talented group, have spoken to the actual medium or the tool. And you just cannot do a multi-layered piece as a painting the way I can do this digitally in Photoshop, or just I use the brush tool a lot. But there are funny things going on with these pieces, and I'm being very self-conscious about that. I'm even putting the tools of the toolbar in there. They're kind of funny. Oh my God, there's a baby under here. I mean, I don't know what that orange blob is in the middle, but I mess around with these and include my sort of spiritual side and commentary and text with the pieces. These are just small crops, actually, of the actual football paintings. And I think we're going to go to the next slide in a minute. No, well, okay. Yes, it's fine. I'm sharing the catalog with friends. We went to Bukhara after we were in Urgench, and it was great to share the catalog with people. And of course, the show may keep traveling. Here's in summary, thank you to Cynthia, to Sharon, to my fellow artists. It was such a moving experience. And I look forward to seeing where it goes next, because it looks like it is going to travel. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think that's covering all of our artists. Before we move on to the next phase.
Oh, wait, no, we have Stephen Perret.
Oh, sorry.
I knew someone was missing, an important person in our group.
The alphabet is not my strong point.
Good save.
Okay, so we have to go back here.
This reinforces my whole story about how I show up in society. Get to see how the sausage is made, is that it?
Yep.
Yes, great. Thank you. That was funny. Yeah, I want to so acknowledgement. I mean, I was given 11 foot of wall space, and so my goal was to be simple, coherent, characteristic, and have the whole thing be immediately graspable as a unity. I was interviewed by the BBC, and so these are screenshots from that, and it was sort of yeah. And I think you've seen Mr. Khodorov already doing his caricature portraits. It was wonderful to be surrounded by a whole lot of dark-haired young people asking questions. One of the great things about the trip was seeing the ancient things from the old Silk Road. I think a weakness in my presentation is that the pictures were made over several months, and the more or less poetic titles I think are not consistent with each other, although they interest me, including the title of the whole thing. But they are unified by style and the simplicity of the human face. I think another inconsistency with this one is that the colors are more vivid than the other four pictures. I am amused by the sort of caricature of myself in this picture, but I can see that my more or less poetic titles are not consistent with each other. So, old friend was a tango enthusiast, and she said, after a while, your closet becomes all black. I always liked that about it, and that was sort of the inspiration for this one. Yeah, interesting about the timings. This is the one that seemed to touch the chord with most of those young people. I'm interested in that, but I don't have a good explanation for it. That previous one, the tango, is the one that most people remark on. I think this one has the most poignant title, and that's one of the reasons why I put it on the end, reading from left to right. The right is the end. And yeah, another shot there of from the tomb of Tamerlane in Samarkand, which I had always wanted to visit. Thanks to Cynthia Beth Rubin, above all, I'm very fortunate that she kept after it, and I've decided at last to join and be part of this unforgettable experience. Thanks to everyone, extraordinary group of people, and good in this presentation to have another look at your wonderful art.
Thanks. Okay, thank you. That was really great, and we're gonna hear more from Stephen in a minute because we will be seeing the digital screen videos. But before we do that, I wanted to take a minute to see if Shirin, who it's very late at night for her, we had the time change. So when we first said we're doing this Zoom, you can come, and it'll be at 9 o'clock your time in the evening, like a little late, but not so bad. And then all of a sudden, whoops, it's 10 o'clock at night. And now it's 11 o'clock at night. But Shirin, would you like to say hello?
Of course.
Do you have anything to say to the group?
My dear friend from United States of America, thank you very much, everyone, for visit, for you very fine art in our museum. And at tomorrow morning in this hall, we're preparing cheese tournir. Young people play cheese, шахматы. You know,
Okay.
cheese.
Chess?
Yeah.
They're playing young
Chess,
people.
chess.
Young people
Yes,
come and
yes.
play chess. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, and welcome again to Hiva, to Uzbekistan. And I like art, everyone from your group. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I mean, this Shirin, you've been wonderful to work with, and as I mentioned earlier, you keep bringing people to see the work, and we carried over some catalogs, and Shirin is making sure that people get the catalogs, and she is talking to people about possibly traveling the show. So very hard at work on our behalf, as well as welcoming us so much. So at this point, we are going to turn to Lucy Boyd Wilson, who can share her screen. And she will mention a little bit of an overview of the digital screen artists that we had. And as you will find out, you will be hearing Stephen's work as well. Okay, Lucy.
All right. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm just sharing my screen. And welcome from Southern California. My name is Lucy Boyd Wilson. I'm very happy to be here presenting the digital screen artworks. In the spring this year, Cynthia Beth Rubin put out a call for art in the Texpressionist salons and the co-working sessions. The call was to submit either 3 images or short video clips of only 15 seconds. Of all the submissions, roughly half were images and half were videos. So it's a nice balance of image artwork and video. And these were compiled together by Michael Woodruff. Michael, I'm glad you talked a little bit about it in your presentation. And the resulting reel is a little less than 8 minutes. In the exhibition, this was the setup. There was a high definition monitor mounted on the wall. The small rectangles on the left side of the monitor, these were thumbnails and names of each of the artists showing in the reel. For the exhibition, it was decided that it should be presented silently. Of course, the image artwork had no audio, and the 15-second video clips, the audio had a wide range, so it just made more sense to present it silently. And at the reception, there was a larger projection set up also showing the digital reel. So while it was presented silently in the exhibition, we thought that for here on Zoom, it would be great to have music with it. And Stephen Perret composed the music for the full 8 minutes yesterday in one day. So that is really impressive. And right now, I'm going to play it.
That's an exaggeration, but thank you.
Okay, 2 days. And here we go, less than 8 minutes. All right, wonderful to see the entire reel right now. Congratulations, everybody, artists and all contributors. And back to Cynthia.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. We wanted to include an overview of how wonderful Techspressionists is, the wide variety of artists that we have. And this reel is on YouTube right now. I think it's on silently. We can give Stephen a little time to breathe, and eventually we'll go on with some sound. And you can find the exhibition website by going to the Techspressionist page, and there you'll find links also to the catalog. And if you go to the catalog, you will see everybody's website, not the artists who all presented, you saw their website, but everyone in the digital reel in the catalog has their website listed. So it's a way that you can go back and see what else people are doing. And there's a nice icon thumbnail from each person as well. So we now have, if we in fact stop at 1:30, but we can go on a little bit longer, we have 13 minutes for any comments and questions. So I guess we have the hand raising thing happening. Zoom now has, like, if you go like this, it raises your hand too, I think. But you can also.
By the way, Cynthia, our catalogs just came over and they look great.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
I'm glad
so.
you got your catalogs, and I snuck in a little cat book too. as
Yes,
well.
thanks so much. And also thanks so much to Sharon and I think for you know, the kind documentation, that sort of thing she gave all of us. So that was very kind.
Oh, yes. Do you have that? She gave everybody mine's in the other room. If yours is nearby, we all got certificates. So
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much.
certificates of participation. It's a nice touch. Greg Little, I still have to send you yours. So one of the requirements for the show was that people attend. And that was one of the reasons for doing the digital reel as well, because there are a lot of wonderful people who were unable to come. And then, of course, we made exceptions for some emergency, unforeseen circumstances. But it's a great model for future international shows, too. And we hope more. Okay. So any questions? Comments? Really? No questions?
Just a comment. Again, since this is the 100th salon, it's just fantastic, Cynthia, to see all of you who made it there, to see the truly international flavor of Techspressionism. And as someone who's been part of this group for quite some time now, I'm just really thrilled. I just think this says so much about who we are, what we're about, the inclusivity of this group, the international flavor of this group, and just the wonderful work and human beings that all of you are. So thanks.
Great, thank you. I should mention that Shirin is also an artist herself, and she has done some digital works, and she will be joining the Techspressionist Greater Collective. We don't know exactly what shows are coming up in the future. I actually have been so busy preparing for this that I didn't yet fill out the form to get her on the list, but that's coming as well. So we will be definitely have an Uzbek artist with us, if not more. Okay, so, and it's really, to go back to what I said in the introduction, it was really Andre who got this started. He was a curator originally based in Siberia, and then moved to Moscow and did a number of international exhibitions and began working with Shirin. So he curated Japanese artists and he curated Italian artists, and then said to me, well, you could have your own show if you want to, but it might be more interesting to make it a group show. And at that point, I'm like so immersed in Techspressionism that this is what we did. So Cynthia, since I've been talking, Cynthia DiDonato, do you want to give a plug for Tuesday co-working?
Absolutely. Every Tuesday, we gather together on Zoom to share our work after we've had approximately about an hour to work on whatever it is we need to work on. Some of us are creating new works. Some of us are collaborating. Some of us are doing whatever artists need to do. Sometimes a call for art comes up, and we share that call with one another, and we perhaps might ask for some input on our work. It's a very friendly group, and we welcome anyone who'd like to join us. There is a link on the Techspressionist site for co-working. If you just click on that link, you can register, and we'd be happy to have you join us.
Yeah. So the co-working aspect of it really makes it work better than just a regular quick group, because you focus back into what you're doing for an hour before you present. So Alan, you have something to say?
I just want to second what Cynthia's just said. For me, the people there are so skilled. It's greatly improved me. I mean, it just you get all kinds of interesting, talented feedback, and people give you ideas about how to improve your work, and how to think about directions that you wouldn't have thought of yourself, because the group is in fact very skilled. I really want to make that clear.
That's great. Yeah. It's a nice exchange of approaches takes place. And for myself, I have to say, I never would have included the actual scientific images under the microscope if the group hadn't kind of forced me to do it. And I think other people have experienced similar kinds of changes in their work. So, anyone else well, we worked so hard to make sure that this would fit in the allotted time that now we have a few extra minutes. So
Very efficient.
It was very fun to travel to Uzbekistan with everyone. And thank you very much for putting up that video of me dancing there.
I think there were more.
There were more. I mean, yeah, there are way more videos of you dancing. James proved to be a great cultural ambassador, uninhibited, just out there. So the restaurant loved him that we went to, and you have
a couple of doctorate students next door who were studying to be surgeons took me in their own car to the liquor store to buy booze and then brought me back to the museum. And then they showed up at the museum at the opening. Very nice country. Everybody said thank you and put their hand on their chest when they said thank you.
Yeah.
So nice.
Really nice.
And it was
Yeah.
nice, Cynthia. I don't think that we could hear you, but I think you said Assalamu alaikum, didn't you, when you
Yeah,
greeted
Zoom.
everyone? Yeah.
We've tested this many times, but apparently Zoom fixed the sound so that you couldn't hear it. So I practiced for 3 months so that I could say Assalamu alaikum, Hayali Kun. It was noontime or evening, Hayali Ton. I'm not sure which one it was, but I had all 3 times of the day down. And I just practiced and practiced and practiced for my few words, and the crowd broke out clapping. They were so thrilled that I could say 4 words of Uzbek. So that was really, yeah, it was really great. But Zoom has its own sound filter that we didn't anticipate. So thank you. Maybe we'll.
I'm just taken by how you guys got that whole thing together. That long. I mean, everybody talked. I don't understand how you worked it. They talked here and at the right time, I guess. What do you use to do that?
You mean, well, technically today, first, the big picture is that we met over Zoom pretty regularly. We didn't have an absolute tight schedule of saying, every Monday at such and such a time. There were times when we knew we had to meet more frequently, and then actually in the past 2 weeks, we didn't meet at all once we set what we were going to do for today, because people were madly working on their presentations and catching up on their lives. But the meeting to plan the exhibit was absolutely essential. And what people did, I mean, there are people in this group here who worked on the catalog. In fact, we could do a quick little, who worked on the catalog, who helped design the catalog and do the layout thing. Do you want to wave your hand a little and say you were a catalog person? Yeah, including, I'm seeing Cynthia DiDonato actually proofread our the Uzbek, because without being able to read it, because ChatGPT translated people's names, and we wanted to translate them back in proper names. So that was great. And so all these people who just raised their hand, Roz designed the logo. The overall design of the catalog was just a huge job, and going back in and fixing the styles, the proofreading. And I think, who else helped proofread besides Cynthia? I know Annette did it, Roz did it, Stephen did it. I did it, but as you can see, the alphabet's not my strong point. So that, proofreading. I'm trying to think. I mean, there was so much work that went into this. just the communication back and forth. Sardar at the U.S. Embassy really pushed us to be culturally aware, which was great. We didn't exactly follow Patrick's advice to practice our Russian, which would have been helpful. But we practice our different ways of communicating. So what else? Michael worked forever on the videos. And if you notice, he did this really great thing of having bars at the bottom to give you an idea of how long it was going, which was really important. We wanted to make it quick enough so that walking around the gallery, people would catch more than one artist, but long enough so you would become interested. And then we had the websites there. Lucy worked on communicating with all of the digital screen artists and organizing, which was really great. Lee stepped in so many times to do so many things. Helping us envision the space was a really biggie. Dealing with some of the catalog issues that we had. And what else, Lee?
I don't know. All of that kind of stuff. I bring a few magnets and nails,
Oh,
all
yeah.
kinds of stuff.
The magnets and nails.
Installation parts.
And James went out and bought us hammers. The installation, yeah, you were great. And Greg Little overnighted some more magnets to me right before I left when he realized that he couldn't come and his work had to go up with magnets as well. Greg Garvey just signed off. I think this is, the problem of having.
No, I think he's there.
He's
got
there?
his hand up.
Oh, Greg. Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to, I think Cheryl's question, if I understood her, was about how we put together the presentation. Is that correct? Today. Yeah. So it basically, everyone did their own PowerPoint or Keynote slide deck, and then we merged them all. And each slide was timed. And then we were able to then create a smooth presentation without the usual Zoom mix-up, except I took sort of my cue from Cynthia, and I apologize to Stephen because we ended prematurely but got back on track. But basically, it's a very good strategy to have one person run the master slide presentation. And with that, I have to leave. I have to go teach, but I wanted to thank all of you for coming to view this. And it was an extraordinary experience. And I'm grateful to Shirin for hosting us and running the entire show. But Cynthia, of course, is the prime mover. And we're grateful for Cynthia's invaluable driving force in making this happen.
And Greg, we're so grateful for you for running the show today too. It really, Greg collected all of the PowerPoints and he kept saying, I need them by such and such a date. And then people would say, wait a minute, I made a quick change. And then he was and finally, he's like really wonderful. But for this kind of presentation, it was great that Greg Garvey volunteered to do this. And this was, I have to say,
I have to leave. So,
okay,
bye.
Greg has to go. I'll keep saying how great you are. But because people just stepped up. We would have our meetings and we'd say, somebody has to do this. Somebody has to do something else. And it got done. People were really great about this.
I think Roz had something to say there too.
Oh, I just wanted to add a thanks to Shirin. She was sort of our the museum director, but also our hostess in a way. And, she planned trips for us to Kiva. It was a fantastic thing where we took a break from the museum, and her assistants were there to help us with everything. And We drank a lot of tea in her office, and we just it's really a wonderful host. And she planned things like we would all go together to eat plov, which is the main dish of Uzbekistan. So little things like that were really appreciated, and it was just a warm, amazing adventure with tons of work. And of course, we got at each other, and but Cynthia kept us always going, and I think we were really a great working group. And of course, salutes to Colin Goldberg. I mean, Techspressionism is now going across the globe, and it's just so exciting. So thank you, and thank you all.
Yep.
Thank you.
So whoever wants to organize a next exhibit, we all, as veterans, would be happy to share more of our experience.
I just wanted to say that it was really a 6-month evolution, because if I remember, we started talking about this as a Techspressionist show in March. And at the beginning, the ground rules were that you had to come. And at the beginning, a lot of people weren't sure that they wanted to come or they could come, and the logistics seemed kind of overwhelming. But over time, as we met on the Zooms and we talked things out, a lot of issues got resolved. But the process also got more complicated, because instead of just sending our work or bringing our work for the show, we decided to do a catalog, a trailer, the additional artist presentation. So we really needed everybody on board, like from March through through mid-September. So it was a tremendous group effort, but Cynthia did keep everybody on track.
Well, thanks to Zoom and
Google Drive. We shared tons of things that were organized. I mean, there must be 25 folders in Google Drive, from catalog to airplane to our travel to what materials. I mean, I didn't know anything about these vinyl banner things. I'd never used it, but for this particular purpose, I learned from Annette and others, and we shared a lot about, there was just a real lot of communal activity in making this all come together.
Yeah, and Michael set up a spreadsheet so we could say who was going to be where traveling.
I just wanted to add one more comment. I want to thank Stephen for at short notice adding his music to the video that Michael so beautifully put together. I thought the music was very complimentary to the video, Stephen, and thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything, Cynthia, about the catalog, that people can order it or anything, or no?
So you can order it. We actually have left it on MagCloud, so you can order one copy off of MagCloud. We have some copies to give to curatorial types or people who are able to find us other locations for the exhibition. And the PDF, there's a fairly good flip book online, and if you wanted to print your own, I can send you the PDF. And I just wanted to mention again the design. So we were talking about all the people who worked on the catalog and the proofreading and the layout. Michael Woodruff with the patterning that we had, that we became our theme. And then Patrick Lichty and Greg Garvey started to brainstorm how we could work that into the cover. And then I also worked on it some, and we came up with the cover, which eventually Annette transformed into our poster. So I just can't go on about, you'd be like, okay, somebody has to do this, and someone has to do this, and it just kept, going
and
on.
Michael Woodruff also made the incredible video and music for our trailer, which was really awesome.
Yeah, it was really awesome. So,
and
okay.
the catalog is in Uzbeki, right? Cynthia, Uzbeki and English.
Oh, yeah, it's bilingual. So obviously the pictures are only in there once. So you need to bring up both pages when you look at it online. So that's why we made this flip book instead of the usual kind of, if you download PDF and you see one at a time, it's a little confusing. Colin made the flip book. Colin put everything on the website. We did have a temporary website, which is a blog, and I will soon, eventually, just have a home page that says, nice seeing you here, but where you really want to go is over to the Techspressionist website, which is now our permanent home. And
I guess we should also thank Claude and ChatGPT AIs for their help in a lot of translation, both in the catalog and in all of the back and forth with Sharon and many other people. So it's really amazing what you can do these days with translation, and as well as when you're over there, being able to point your little Google device or some other device at things and get things translated. It's really an amazing change in the last couple of years.
It's really amazing. Yeah. For the catalog, Feruza did a lot of the translating. She just volunteered. Sartor from the U.S. Embassy put us in touch with her. And then Kulkar, who couldn't be on at this hour because she lives in Paris and it's dinner time for her family, for her baby. But I found her online. I mean, the night that I found out that Andre had died, I was emailing him back and forth or text messaging about the exhibit, and then sent a message in the end of December, just a few days after I'd sent an earlier one, and his son answered saying, sorry, he's not here anymore. And I really didn't know what to do because I did not even have Sharin's contact at that point. We were really early. And so I got onto Facebook. So we have to thank Facebook. I got onto Facebook and I looked for artists in who exhibited in who were Uzbek, and I found Kuklar. Sorry, I'm saying her name wrong. And I actually wrote to her first in French, not realizing that she also spoke English, which made it a lot easier. And she became, I feel like she's like one of my best friends right now. And I know she'll be watching this eventually. And then thanks to Facebook, I looked at where she had friends that overlapped with friends that Andre had. And I found Sharin. And I said, do you know anybody who's willing to use Google Translate that can help me get in touch with the museum director? And she wrote back, I'm the museum director. And so we went on from there. So that was January, and we kind of, took a while to figure out whether we could go ahead. By February, we decided to go ahead and started meeting intensely in March. So someone just had their hand raised. Anyone else? Okay, so Colin, do you want to wrap things up then, if they're...
Sure. So yeah, I just want to thank Sharin for hosting the exhibition and the museum. Cynthia, for organizing this. I know it's a massive amount of work, and I think it was something that is just an incredible achievement to get a bunch of artists together. Going abroad, it's like herding cats. Like anything with artists is always pretty complicated, I've found. And but also, very just very gratifying to see, and also having such positive sort of, cultural ambassadors from the United States, especially in this day and age, I think is a very important thing for all of us to, to think about. So yeah, it's just incredible what you guys have all pulled off, and I think the co-working is another example of how artists in the community just came up with an idea and decided to run with it, and took very little facilitation on my part, basically sharing a Zoom login and password so you guys could do your thing, and putting a link up on the website. But other than that, it's all the two Cynthias who put this together, and then the group of artists who meet regularly in this co-working session, I think it's, just another subset of the community. And for those of you who are watching this as a recording on YouTube, I would invite you to come to these salons, first of all, which are held on the first Thursday of every month at noon Eastern time. They're open to everybody. And usually we have a sort of rotating set of different topics and moderators and things like that. It's pretty loose and informal. And also, for anyone also watching this, to, add the hashtag Techspressionism to your art posts. So Renata, who's our Instagram curator, will be able to see your work and hopefully, be able to share it with the rest of the community on the official account and, invite you to become listed in the Artist Index. So there is sort of like a method to the madness, but I think that the people who use the hashtag, I always kind of think of it as like the layers of an onion. That's sort of the outer part of what Techspressionism is. If it's at all to be considered a movement, I would say just the use of the hashtag on social media is kind of like that level of participation. And then the people here in this group, there's sort of a core bunch of us that have been coming here for almost 5 years now. And then the co-working group is an even smaller set of people that, meet regularly and make work. So I would invite all of you also, if you'd like, who are here now, to hang out for a little bit afterwards for the after party, aka our advisory board, where we usually pick a topic for the next salon and just kind of, talk about, what's going on, some initiatives and plans and whatever. So with that, I'm going to stop the recording. And once again, I just want to thank you all for making this salon really special and for putting this exhibition together. It's really an incredible achievement. So we will stop recording in 3, 2,